In every age, there are whispers of a forbidden truth. A truth so sharp, so unsettling, that most would rather turn away than face it. Power does not belong to the noble, the righteous, or the kind. It belongs to those willing to embrace the shadows, to those who understand that fairness is an illusion crafted to comfort the weak. Imagine standing in a crowded room, filled with people talking, laughing, and exchanging pleasantries. Everyone appears equal, respectful, and polite. But beneath the smiles and handshakes, something else is happening. Invisible lines of power are being drawn. The one who speaks the loudest, who commands attention, who manipulates the moment, that is the person who will leave the room with respect, with influence, with control. The rest. They will forget themselves, forgotten as mere background noise in the theater of human ambition. This is the reality Niccolò Machiavelli understood. Centuries ago, he peeled back the fragile skin of morality to reveal the bone and muscle of human behavior. He did not write to comfort the soul. He wrote to arm those bold enough to rule. His book, The Prince, remains one of the most dangerous manuscripts ever penned. Not because it speaks of kindness or virtue, but because it dares to reveal what others hide, that behind every act of politics, every gesture of power, lies ruthlessness. Machiavelli asked us to look at humanity not as we wish it to be, but as it truly is: selfish, fearful, ambitious, and weak. If you want to lead, he declared, you must stop playing fair. You must be ruthless. You must learn to bend people like iron, to shape them into the weapons and shields of your will. These words have terrified generations because they do not flatter. They do not paint mankind in noble light. They hold up a mirror, and in that mirror, we see not the angel but the animal, the one who fights to survive, the one who dominates or is dominated. But here lies the paradox. While Machiavelli's lessons feel dark, they are not lies. They are truths we all sense, even if we refuse to say them aloud. Think back on your own life. The times you were too kind, too fair, too trusting. Did people respect you, or did they exploit you? The moments you tried to play by the rules, did you win, or did someone else twist those rules and walk away victorious? The world does not reward fairness. It rewards strength. It rewards cunning. It rewards those who are unafraid to wear the mask of virtue while carrying the blade of strategy. And so, if you are to understand Machiavelli, you must prepare yourself. This is not a comfortable journey. It is not a sermon of kindness. It is a descent into the machinery of power, fear, deception, division, control. We will explore not only what Machiavelli taught rulers of his time, but how those same lessons dominate our world today. From politics to corporations, from kingdoms to personal relationships. The shadows are everywhere, waiting for those bold enough to master them. But before we dive deeper, ask yourself this: do you want to be loved? Or do you want to be feared? Do you want to be fair, or do you want to win? Your answer will determine whether you are merely a spectator in the theater of power, or the one pulling the strings. Now, imagine yourself in Renaissance Florence. The city is alive with merchants, priests, soldiers, and spies. Behind every door, a plot is unfolding. Behind every smile, a dagger is concealed. This is the world Machiavelli lived in, a world where weakness was fatal and power was everything. It was in this crucible that Machiavelli learned his lessons. Watching kings fall and tyrants rise, watching men lose their crowns not because they lacked kindness, but because they lacked ruthlessness. Watching republics collapse because their leaders trusted too much in the morality of men. Machiavelli understood a timeless truth. People are loyal only when it serves them. They are honest only when they fear punishment. They are brave only when the danger is far away. But when the storm arrives, when survival is at stake, masks fall and self-interest reigns. And so he asked, should a leader trust in the loyalty of others, Or should he build a system where betrayal carries more risk than obedience? Should a ruler be merciful, or should he be feared enough that no one dares to test him? Should one cling to virtue, or wield vice as a weapon when the moment demands? These questions were not philosophical musings for Machiavelli. They were survival manuals for rulers walking the razor's edge between glory and ruin. He did not care how the world ought to be. He cared about how the world is. If you strip away the illusions, what remains is this: human beings are motivated by fear, by greed, by self-preservation. They are not saints, they are chess pieces, and the ruler who fails to move them correctly will be crushed by the game. Pause and let that sink in. Think of the people in your life. The colleague who smiles to your face while undermining you behind your back. The friend who disappears when you no longer benefit them. The leader who promises everything, only to betray you when it suits their ambition. This is not the exception. This is the rule. Machiavelli forces us to admit what we secretly know: trust is fragile, loyalty is conditional, and morality bends under pressure. Those who recognize this can prepare themselves. Those who deny it will always be victims. But here's the beauty hidden in the darkness: once you accept human nature as it is, not as you wish it to be, you gain freedom. You are no longer blindsided by betrayal. You are no longer disarmed by disappointment. You expect selfishness, so you prepare for it. You anticipate treachery, so you counter it. You wield the truth of human nature as a weapon. This is the first step toward ruthless power. Not cruelty for its own sake, but clarity. The clarity to see people not as angels or demons, but as tools, as threats, as allies of convenience. The clarity to remove illusions and play the game as it is meant to be played. And this, Machiavelli insists, is the path to survival. Now imagine again that crowded room. Smiles, laughter, handshakes. Only now you are no longer blind. You see the dynamics, the subtle hierarchy. You notice who interrupts and who remains silent. You see who others gravitate toward and who is ignored. You read the currents of power as easily as one reads a map. And when the moment comes, you step into the center, not with kindness, not with fairness, but with presence, with dominance, with strategy. This is what separates the powerful from the powerless. If you wish to rule, or even simply to survive in a world of ruthless competition, you must understand the psychology of human beings. This is where Machiavelli's insights become chillingly precise. He tells us that men are ungrateful, fickle, liars, and deceivers. They shun danger and are greedy for gain. These words sting because they strip away the comforting illusion that people are inherently good. But observe the world with clear eyes, and you'll see the evidence everywhere. Consider a workplace. A manager showers his team with kindness, assuming loyalty will be returned. But when promotions appear, alliances shift, gratitude fades, and ambition takes over. The very people he helped rise will undermine him to climb higher themselves. He believed loyalty was permanent. Machiavelli would tell him loyalty lasts only as long as it is useful. Consider politics. A leader promises prosperity and justice. People cheer, adore, and trust them. But as soon as hardship arrives, an economic crisis, a war, a scandal, the same people turn away. The love they gave yesterday evaporates like morning mist. Machiavelli's warning becomes true. It is safer to be feared than loved, because love depends on fragile emotion, while fear is bound by survival. And consider relationships. A friend or partner claims unconditional devotion. But when the storms of life arrive, when sacrifice is demanded, how often does that devotion remain? Words are easy. Loyalty under fire is rare. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago, and it remains as relevant today as it was in Renaissance Florence. So what does this mean for you, the one who seeks to understand power? It means you must never rely on love, gratitude, or friendship as the foundation of authority. You must instead rely on structure, on fear, on control. The wise leader builds systems that punish betrayal, reward obedience, and ensure that people remain bound not by affection, but by necessity. This does not mean you must be cruel without reason. Machiavelli himself warned that unnecessary cruelty breeds hatred, and hatred destroys rulers. Instead, cruelty must be calculated, swift and purposeful. Punish once and severely, so that no one dares to test you again. Show mercy only when it strengthens your position, not when it weakens you. To understand this balance, imagine two rulers. The first tries to be loved. He forgives enemies, trusts too much, and shows mercy even to those who openly plot against him. He believes kindness will win loyalty. But in time, his subjects see his mercy as weakness, his forgiveness as naivety. They betray him, and his rule collapses. The second ruler strikes swiftly at betrayal. He makes examples of traitors, punishing them in ways that ignite fear across his realm. Yet to the obedient, he shows fairness and stability. People may not love him, but they respect him. They fear crossing him, and so they obey. His rule endures, not because he was loved, but because he understood the psychology of ruthlessness. This is the paradox of leadership to endure. You must learn when to be cruel and when to appear merciful. But never let mercy come from weakness. Let it come only when it serves your power. Think about this in your own life. How often have you forgiven someone who did not deserve it, hoping they would change, only to be betrayed again? How often have you been too kind, too fair, only to be taken advantage of? Machiavelli's wisdom is not a call to be heartless, but a call to open your eyes, to see clearly that fairness alone does not protect you. That mercy without strength invites predators, and so, to walk the path of power, you must become two things: the lion and the fox. The lion represents strength, the power to strike fear, the dominance that keeps enemies at bay. But strength alone is not enough. A lion may be powerful, but it is easily trapped if it lacks cunning. That is why you must also be the fox. Clever, deceptive, able to sense traps and escape them. A ruler who is only a lion will be destroyed by cunning rivals. A ruler who is only a fox will be crushed by brute force. But a ruler who is both cannot be stopped. Strength and cunning, this is the duality of power. Pause for a moment and reflect. Do you rely more on the lion within you or the fox? Do you use fear or do you use deception? Or have you been living as neither, trying instead to be the lamb, gentle, harmless, hoping for fairness in a world that rewards neither? The lamb is devoured, the lion and the fox endure. This is the core of Machiavelli's psychology of ruthlessness. To survive, you must master both sides. You must know when to roar and when to whisper, when to strike with claws and when to weave the web of illusion. You must accept that power does not reward purity, but strategy. Now, imagine again that you are standing in a throne room, surrounded by allies and enemies alike. They bow, they smile, they pledge loyalty. But you know the truth. Most of them would turn against you if the tide shifted. They are not yours. They are theirs. So you look at them not with trust, but with calculation. Who can be controlled by fear? Who can be manipulated by promises? Who is dangerous and who is useful? This is how Machiavelli teaches you to see the world, not as a collection of friends and enemies, but as a board of pieces, each with value, each with weakness, each with purpose. The king who forgets this is doomed. The strategist who remembers it commands the game. And when you step back from the throne room, you begin to see this pattern everywhere, in your workplace, in your community, even in your family. The dynamics of power are universal. Those who cling to ideals of fairness alone become pawns. Those who learn the psychology of ruthlessness become players. The truth is uncomfortable. It is easier to believe in loyalty, kindness and fairness, But comfort does not win battles. Comfort does not protect you from betrayal. Comfort does not build empires. Only clarity does, and clarity requires you to strip away illusion and embrace the dark psychology of human behavior. The sooner you accept this, the sooner you will stop being surprised by betrayal. The sooner you will stop being hurt by disloyalty. The sooner you will stop being the lamb and start becoming the lion and the fox. Fear is the oldest currency of power. Before laws, before crowns, before armies, there was fear. And even now, beneath the polished speeches of presidents and the glossy advertisements of corporations, fear remains the invisible thread that binds obedience. Machiavelli knew this, and he wielded it like a blade. "It is better to be feared than loved," he wrote, "if you cannot be both." The words are simple, but their weight is immense. Love is fragile. Love can be betrayed, forgotten, or withdrawn in a moment of weakness. But fear is durable. Fear lingers in the mind long after affection has faded. Fear keeps men in line, even when their hearts rebel. Fear silences questions, stops conspiracies, and makes betrayal unthinkable. Think of an army. Soldiers may love their general, but when the battle turns bloody and hope seems lost, love will not keep them from fleeing. Fear, however, the fear of punishment, the fear of disgrace, the fear of consequences, will hold them in formation when love has fled. Fear preserves order where affection collapses. Yet Machiavelli did not argue for endless cruelty. He was too clever for that. Fear, if unchecked, becomes hatred, and hatred is poison. A ruler hated by his people stands on thin ice, waiting for the day it cracks. Fear must be wielded like fire, controlled, contained, precise. Too little and people grow bold. Too much and they rebel. The master of power knows how to strike the balance, ensuring that fear protects without destroying. Imagine you are a ruler. A traitor is discovered plotting against you. What do? The merciful may forgive, hoping to win gratitude. But that gratitude will fade, and others will see your forgiveness as weakness. The timid may punish lightly, hoping to seem fair. But this will embolden others to test your limits. The ruthless, however, punish swiftly and severely, making an example so sharp that no one dares to imitate the traitor. And yet, once the punishment is done, they do not indulge in cruelty. They do not keep burning the fire. They allow peace to return. The fear remains, but hatred does not fester. This is the Machiavellian way. Fear also works invisibly through perception. A ruler does not need to punish constantly to maintain fear. In fact, constant punishment breeds instability. Instead, the ruler cultivates an aura, a reputation so formidable that people obey without ever testing the limits. Reputation is the armor of fear. A single brutal act, wisely chosen, can echo for decades, keeping men loyal without further bloodshed. Consider the workplace again. Which boss commands more respect, the one who tries to be everyone's friend, or the one whose disapproval alone makes the entire room fall silent? The friend boss may be loved, but boundaries are crossed, deadlines are ignored, authority is questioned. The feared boss may not be loved, but things get done. The authority of fear ensures survival. Even in personal life, the dynamic exists. Parents who seek only to be loved by their children often fail to discipline them, and the result is chaos. Parents who balance warmth with a clear line of consequence are the ones whose authority endures. Fear, not love, enforces boundaries. Machiavelli's lesson is clear: if forced to choose between being loved or feared, always choose fear, because fear is tied to survival, and survival is stronger than affection. But fear alone is not enough. Fear is powerful, but it is crude. It controls, but it does not deceive. For true mastery of power, one must also wield deception, the art of manipulation, the fox's cunning to match the lion's roar. This is where many rulers, leaders, and individuals fail. They believe strength alone will secure them. They believe punishment alone will control others. But strength can be outmaneuvered, and fear can be resisted. What cannot be resisted is a lie so clever it feels like truth. Deception is the quiet weapon, the invisible hand that shapes reality without a single blow. With deception, you do not merely force people to obey. You make them want to obey. You shape their perceptions so subtly that they follow willingly, believing they are free even as you guide them like puppets on strings. Think of the fox slipping through traps, deceiving hunters, surviving where brute strength would fail. This is the power of manipulation, and Machiavelli insisted it was as vital as fear. The art of deception is older than language itself. Before man could write laws, he could lie. Before kings commanded armies, they tricked their rivals. And to this day, the battlefield of power is ruled not only by strength, but by illusion. Machiavelli wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are." These words hold the skeleton key to manipulation. Most people live and die in the shallow world of appearances. They judge not by truth, but by what they can see, what they can hear, what they can be led to believe. The wise ruler knows this, and crafts appearances as carefully as a painter layers colors on a canvas. You need not be virtuous, you only need to appear virtuous. You need not be merciful, you only need the reputation of mercy. You need not be honest, you only need to be believed. In this way, you can hold every vice in your heart while wearing the mask of virtue. The people, blind to the difference, will follow you with devotion. Consider the fox. He is small, weaker than wolves and lions, yet he survives. Why? Because he deceives. He leaves false tracks in the snow, leads hunters astray, and hides his true path. Deception is not cowardice, it is survival. Machiavelli knew that power is not secured only with the sword, but with shadows, whispers, and masks. Deception is also efficient. Force requires armies, prisons, and endless punishments. But a lie, well placed, can turn enemies into allies, rivals into pawns, and citizens into willing servants. Imagine the effort required to chain 1,000 men by force. Now imagine how easily they can be chained by belief. Belief in your strength, in your virtue, in your destiny. Which is stronger, the sword or the illusion? Which lasts longer, steel or faith? Leaders who mastered deception shaped the world. Julius Caesar, before he seized absolute power, portrayed himself as a humble servant of the Republic. His mask was so convincing that when he finally became dictator, many still believed he was defending liberty. In truth, he was destroying it, but the lie was stronger than reality. In your own life, the principle is the same. In business, the one who seems confident wins trust, even if he doubts himself privately. In relationships, the one who appears scarce is desired more than the one who appears too eager. People rarely seek the truth. They seek what comforts their illusions. If you can provide the illusion, you can control the truth. But deception has rules. A lie must always be wrapped in fragments of truth, or it will crumble. A mask must be worn consistently, or it will slip. Deception must be subtle, never heavy-handed, or suspicion will take root. The best deceivers do not simply trick others, they let others trick themselves. They create conditions in which people choose to believe the illusion, because it flatters their desires, confirms their biases, and comforts their fears. The Machiavellian deceiver understands human weakness. We crave certainty, so we trust the confident. We crave belonging, so we follow the crowd. We crave hope, so we cling to comforting lies. To manipulate others, you must know not only what they see, but what they want to see. And then you give it to them. This is why appearance often matters more than reality. A ruler who seems strong is more powerful than one who actually is, because perception governs obedience. A man who seems virtuous will be trusted, even if he secretly plots treachery. In politics, in business, in love, appearances dominate. The world does not reward truth, it rewards the appearance of truth. And yet, deception is not only about others, it is also about you. To wield power, you must first deceive yourself into becoming unshakable. You must wear your own mask so long that it becomes your skin. Fear may still whisper inside you, but to the world, you must show only certainty. Doubt may gnaw at your mind, but your face must be carved in stone. The mask, once perfected, ceases to be a mask. It becomes reality. The lion may terrify with fear, but the fox survives with lies. Together, they form the complete ruler. The lion strikes, the fox deceives. And with this union, power becomes untouchable. But there is another layer still. Fear and deception secure obedience. Manipulation ensures loyalty. Yet what happens when loyalty falters? What happens when subjects plot, when rivals grow bold, when allies betray? Here enters the next weapon in Machiavelli's arsenal. Control. Not merely control of armies or laws, but the invisible control of minds, choices, and destinies. Control is the highest form of power, for it binds not just bodies but minds. To command soldiers with fear is one thing, but to command their loyalty so deeply that they march willingly into death. That is mastery. To control is to shape perception so profoundly that your influence feels invisible, inevitable, natural. Machiavelli understood that people do not truly desire freedom. They desire security, comfort, and direction. Give them these, or convince them you are the only one who can, and they will surrender their freedom voluntarily. Chains of iron are heavy and resented, chains of the mind are light and invisible, and so they are embraced. How does one achieve such control? First, by dividing. A unified people are dangerous, but a divided people cannot rise against you. If citizens quarrel among themselves, they will never unite against their ruler. If allies distrust each other, they cannot conspire. If rivals fight over scraps, they forget to challenge the throne. Division is not chaos. It is order under your hand. A ruler should never fear to sow discord, for it creates dependency. Second, by controlling narratives. Men do not see the world as it is. They see it as it is told to them. Whoever shapes the story controls the reality. A ruler who controls the flow of information does not need to silence every voice. He only needs to make his voice the loudest, the most persuasive, the most comforting, or the most terrifying. If you control what people believe, you need not control their actions. Belief guides them for you. Third, by rewarding loyalty selectively. Absolute mercy breeds contempt, but carefully measured rewards breed dependency. Make loyalty profitable, betrayal costly, and obedience will spread like fire. People must see that their future, their prosperity, their survival itself depends on their connection to you. In this way, they do not serve you out of morality, but out of necessity, and necessity is stronger than love. In relationships, this principle is just as lethal. Control is maintained not by force, but by scarcity, by mystery, by unpredictability. When someone cannot fully predict you, they obsess over you. When they feel you can grant or withhold affection, attention, or opportunity at will, they orbit you like planets around the sun. The secret is not to give them what they want consistently, but to give it unpredictably. This imbalance keeps them bound. Control also thrives on ritual. People find comfort in structure. If you establish patterns, meetings, traditions, symbols, those around you will cling to them as anchors. Over time, they associate stability with your presence. To lose you would mean losing the very ground beneath their feet, and so they cling closer, never realizing that their loyalty is not to truth or justice, but to the cage you built around them. Machiavelli's genius lay in recognizing that control does not need to be constant. It only needs to be decisive at key moments. You do not need to watch every citizen, only those who pose a threat. You do not need to dominate every conversation, only the ones that shape perception. You do not need to crush every rival, only the strongest. Control is not about exhausting yourself with endless vigilance. It is about strategic, surgical dominance. But there is also a danger. Too much visible control breeds resistance. People resent open tyranny, but they accept invisible influence. If they believe their choices are their own, they will defend them fiercely, even if those choices lead exactly where you wanted them to. This is the perfection of control, not when people obey you, but when they believe they are obeying themselves. The ruler, then, is like a puppeteer who never lets the puppets see the strings. The subjects dance, laugh, and weep, thinking they move of their own free will. But behind the curtain, the hand directs every motion. And as long as the illusion holds, the puppets will never cut their strings. This is why the prince must be both feared and admired, deceiving and controlling, brutal and merciful, never fully one thing, never fully another. He must be whatever the moment demands. For in the end, power is not rigid but fluid. It shifts, adapts, bends like water around stone. And the one who understands this flow commands all who stand in its current. Yet Machiavelli's philosophy does not stop here. Fear, deception, and control form the foundation, but there is a final element that crowns them all: fortune. The unpredictable, chaotic force that can raise men to kings or reduce empires to dust. And it is in facing fortune that the true genius of the ruler is tested. Fortune, that mysterious mistress, that unpredictable force which no man can fully command, stands at the edge of every throne. Machiavelli compared her to a river that floods its banks, destroying everything in its path when unprepared rulers stand idle. But the wise ruler, he said, builds dams, channels, and defenses long before the flood. Fortune cannot be destroyed, but she can be tamed, redirected, bent to one's purpose. Many believe that success is a gift of fate, that destiny crowns kings and breaks peasants without rhyme or reason. Machiavelli shattered this illusion. Fortune, he declared, governs half of our actions, but the other half belongs to us. Fate sets the stage, but strategy writes the script. The weak submit to the storms of chance. The strong bend fortune to their will. This is why Machiavelli praised audacity over hesitation. The bold, he wrote, are more often favored by fortune than the timid. For fortune is like a woman. She yields to those who strike her with courage, not those who plead timidly for her favor. Cowards wait for opportunity. Princes create it, and when opportunity does appear, it rarely lingers. Those who hesitate lose it forever. Think of the rulers who rose not by inheritance, but by seizing their moment. Caesar Borgia, though ultimately betrayed by illness, carved his brief empire through daring. Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon, shattering the old order and forging his own. These men did not wait for fortune to smile, they forced her hand. Machiavelli studied them with ruthless admiration, seeing in their audacity a truth that cowards dare not utter. Success belongs not to the cautious but to the relentless. Yet fortune punishes arrogance. Those who rely solely on luck are ruined when it turns. The gambler who wins one hand believes he will win forever, until the dice betray him. The ruler who believes fortune loves him unconditionally will fall when her favor shifts. Thus, the true prince is both daring and prudent. He seizes opportunity with ferocity, but he prepares for disaster with equal care. Machiavelli taught that change is the one constant. A ruler must evolve with the times. When the world shifts, the prince who clings to old strategies is destroyed. The fox who survives is the fox who changes his den when the hunters learn his tricks. Flexibility, adaptability, transformation, these are the weapons against fortune's cruelty. But what of the common man? Is fortune only the concern of rulers and kings? No, for in every life fortune whispers. In love, in work, in struggle, moments arise that shape destiny. Most let them pass, too timid to act. The Machiavellian mind does not. It seizes the moment, no matter the cost. The job opportunity, the alliance, the betrayal, the bold confession, the leap into risk. These are the crossroads where fortune waits. And she rewards only those who dare step forward. This is why the timid are ruled and the daring rule. For fortune may crush both equally, but only the daring taste her victories. To live in fear of loss is to already be defeated. To embrace risk is to grasp the only path to greatness. Fortune will punish you, betray you and wound you. But if you stand boldly before her, she may for a time become your servant. Machiavelli's vision of fortune was not merely cynical. It was empowering. It stripped away illusions of divine destiny or cosmic justice and replaced them with human will. It told men that fate is not a prison, but a storm. And though no man controls the storm, the wise sailor raises his sails when the winds shift, while the fool prays uselessly for calm. To understand fortune, then, is to understand life itself, unpredictable, merciless, but full of hidden opportunities for those with the eyes to see and the courage to act. And it is in this understanding that Machiavelli reveals his final lesson, the paradox at the heart of power. For though ruthlessness, deception, control, and audacity can build empires, they may also destroy the soul of the ruler himself. The final question is not simply how to rule, but how to rule without being ruled by the darkness within. And so we arrive at the final paradox. What good is power if, in grasping it, you become a prisoner of your own cruelty? What worth is victory if your throne stands on bones and ashes, and every shadow reminds you of the blood spilled to reach it? Machiavelli never pretended that power was clean. He knew it was stained, compromised, soaked in deceit. But he also knew that to ignore this truth was to be destroyed by it. The ruler must always balance necessity with restraint. Yes, he must be feared, but not hated. Yes, he must deceive, but not so openly that trust can never form. Yes, he must be ruthless, but not reckless. The tightrope is narrow, and many fall. Too much mercy breeds weakness. Too much cruelty breeds rebellion. Survival lies in the delicate middle, the ability to wield the knife with precision, and then sheath it before the blood corrodes the blade. In the private soul, this paradox is even sharper. To practice Machiavellian wisdom in life is to see manipulation where others see innocence, to recognize fear where others see loyalty, to wield strategy where others stumble with honesty. It grants clarity, yes, but also isolation. For when you see the world as a battlefield of power, you stand apart from those who still dream of fairness and justice. And in that distance lies both strength and loneliness. The final Machiavellian lesson, then, is not how to rule others, but how to rule oneself. Can you wield fear without being consumed by it? Can you deceive without losing the truth of your own identity? Can you master control without becoming a slave to paranoia? These are the questions that haunt every prince, every leader, every soul that dares to step into the arena of power. Machiavelli never promised peace of mind. He promised survival. He promised dominance. He promised the possibility of greatness in a world that chews up the knave and spits them into graves. His wisdom is sharp, dangerous, even poisonous. But like all poisons, in the right dose it can be medicine. It can open the eyes. It can harden the will. It can prepare the soul for a reality that is merciless to the unprepared. So what, then, is the choice? To live as the lamb, gentle, trusting, destined for slaughter, or to live as the lion, feared, ruthless, yet standing victorious? To walk the path of Machiavelli is not to embrace cruelty for its own sake, but to wield it when survival demands it, to reject illusions, to face the world as it is, and to act with the cunning of the fox and the force of the lion. And as the candle burns low and the shadows lengthen, his voice echoes across centuries. Not soft, not comforting, but sharp as steel. Do not wait for mercy, do not expect justice. The world belongs to those who seize it. The question remains, will you play fair and be forgotten? Or will you embrace the ruthless lessons of power and carve your name into history?